I was just busy watching YouTube the other day because I was feeling very lazy. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Marco Meatball, made a video discussing songs he would recommend to people who aren't familiar with video game soundtracks. I agreed with a lot of the songs he chose, and I thought this was a cool idea, so I was wondering what I would recommend from my personal collection of my favorite video game OSTs, because I have so many. Then I realized that I don't really have anyone to share this with. Well, that's not exactly true, so allow me to explain in more depth. I often torment my girlfriend with new soundtracks I hear when I play a new game, and I'm more than sure she's absolutely fed up with me for it at this point. And I also have my brother who I share my favorite OSTs with, and vice versa, but I need a person who has absolutely no idea what video game music is like. Maybe they've heard Tetris before. Definitely the original Super Mario Bros. Theme. Definitely the original Super Mario Bros. Theme everyone has, but I'm looking for someone who has no idea what it has to offer. Perhaps they even think video game music is terrible and doesn't compare to mainstream music in the slightest because it's from a video game. I need a conversation with that person. However, I have social anxiety. I'm not just going to get into a conversation about this kind of topic with a random stranger unless they're the ones who trigger it, or it's just casually mentioned once off and I seize the opportunity. And that's sort of why I wanted to make this video. I had already made a video about my favorite video game OSTs, and that was a year ago, and I found some new songs from games that I've played in between that time span. I also want to make this video so that I can get this out of my system, you know? And if anyone I know is watching this video who is unaware of how cool video game soundtracks are, this is a cry for help! Please trigger this conversation with me, I beg! Anyway, how would I go about having a conversation with this imaginary person? Well, it's quite simple. I would start off by asking what genre of music they like and atone for some of the possible genres they would mention. I can't do all of them, but I can do a lot, so depending on their answer, I would choose something from my collection for them. Let's say they chose, for example, something classical, or perhaps some sort of opera in there as well a little bit. I would point them directly to Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And if they're not completely satisfied with that, I'll win them over with NieR Automata. perhaps they like something sort of relaxing, something they can just put on to turn off their brain and let the whole world fade away. Maybe it's got a sort of Western American vibes to it. Well, I'd say look no further than Outer Wilds. And if they're into really orchestral and epic pieces with violins and cellos, why not throw in some Hollow Knight Silksong? Perhaps they're a more mellow person and they prefer a good somber piano piece with some violin. In that case, I'll play them Slay the Princess. Okay, but what if they want something that's a bit more modern and also very rock and roll?
It's no war out there every day. You can't hide from me. You gotta pray for the rules, pretty cool. Calling out in the face of this out street. When your friends and boss look like on the face of it, they miss their history, but they fight all the place in it. Yeah, they fight all the place in it. Had it other times, they just how the love goes by. I know it's natural to say, but there ain't no other way. So step on up to the place. Need your face, what can spin on into the light of us. Step on up to the place. 'Cause this ain't no game. It's time to make history, yeah.
With a mixture of jazz? If they don't really have a preference when it comes to genres, then I'll rapid fire all sorts of Zelda songs in their direction. And to top them all off, I'd give them the glory that is Specialist from Persona 4 Dancing All Night. There are obviously hundreds of other songs I would add to this list, but these are a small handful of my favorites that I would choose to represent video game soundtracks. And I know like 2 or 3 of the songs I chose overlapped with Marco Meatball's selection. I don't care because those are songs I would have chosen as well, and this is my list, so it doesn't really matter. And after all of that, if I have not convinced them that video game soundtracks can be amazing and on par with mainstream music, then they're a lost cause and probably not worth having conversations with in the first place, so them, I guess.